Hey everyone, Sharkart here, and I wanted to talk to you today about our favorite purple overlord, Baal, the Raiden Shogun. Now the question on everyone's mind is, how strong is she? Is she OP? Should I use my hard-earned Primo Gems on her? And that's exactly what I'm here to answer. Before I give you my verdict, we'll go over her kits, potential team comps, character investment requirements, and that way you can make an informed decision for yourself. So Baal's kit is a little complex, but she actually plays really smoothly. Her kit revolves around casting her elemental skill, gaining resolve stacks by using other characters' elemental bursts and absorbing energy particles, and then cashing out her resolve stacks by popping her elemental burst for big damage. With skills like Baleful Omen, Eye of Stormy Judgment, Chakra Desiderata, Muso Shinetsu, and Muso Ishin, the Raiden Shogun seems really complex, maybe even a little intimidating to play. But all you really need to know is that her rotation is first cast her E, her elemental skill, then switch to your three other characters, cast their Qs, their elemental bursts, and then finally use Baal's Q or elemental burst and do damage in sword mode. And while I love the Electro Archon and I'm going to be pulling for her myself, I want to be as unbiased as I can by giving you numbers instead of just giving you my feelings and gushing over her. Let's start with her auto attacks. Don't level them up. Her damage comes from her burst. Leveling her auto attacks does not affect her burst damage at all because her sword strikes are considered elemental burst damage, not normal or charge attacks damage in this state. And if you need another reason not to level her auto attacks, the damage scaling of them is actually weaker than Zhang Ling's. Because here we've got about 68, 68, 85, and about 90 there, and Zhang Ling, also level 8, 71, 71, 89, and 24 times 4, about 100. So Zhang Ling, 4-star free character, has better scaling on her auto attacks than the Raiden Shogun does. Next we move on to her E. This skill unfortunately has weak scaling as well. At level 8 it does 187.5% damage upon casting the skill, and you have a coordinated attack, which is something that stays on field and does extra damage, at 67.2%. Unfortunately, the skill is very similar to BEIDOU'S, and meaning it does not deal damage if the enemy has a shield. So the coordinated attacks and off-field damage will not hit if the enemy is shielded, like our favorite Abyss mages. For comparison, Visual's Oz summoning damage is about the same, at just slightly under this initial skill damage of 187%, but Oz's attack damage is more than double at the same talent level. So once again, the Ruler of Eternity unfortunately gets beaten by a 4-star. And just a quick note with the skill, even though it does last for 25 seconds and have a cooldown of only 10 seconds, you do want to be casting the skill off cooldown so you can get this initial skill damage attack every 10 seconds. The resolve stacks do not disappear when you recast the ability, so really you just want to keep casting it over so you can get the extra roughly 200% skill damage off every 10 seconds. But regardless of the low damage scaling of this ability, you still will want to level it up, because it also increases elemental burst damage for other characters on your team. At talent level 8, your other characters get a 0.29% elemental burst damage bonus for every 1 energy their bursts cost. So, if you have a character that has an 80 energy cost burst, like Zhang Ling, Jingqiu, or Sucrose, you're getting a roughly 23% elemental burst bonus damage for those characters. And as a little side note, you do want to be using characters with an 80 cost elemental burst, especially at Constellation 0, because it will increase their elemental burst damage the most, and it will also increase the elemental burst damage of the Raiden Shogun, because she has a higher chance of gaining the maximum 60 resolve stacks more consistently. And this elemental burst damage bonus increases as you level up the talent, so that is the major reason why you want to level up this talent, even though the damage on it is not really anything special. Finally, we have her Q. The big flashy boba sword is the major reason so many people want to pull her. In short, her Q is great, but not because it deals massive damage. It's great because it deals decent damage while also recharging your team's energy. And at level 8, Baal's burst will do 641% damage on the initial hit and another 1.16% for every resolve stack you have. At the max of 60 stacks, this initial hit will do about 711% damage at talent level 8. For comparison, that's about the same damage as Zhongli's Meteor at talent level 7. So the damage is good, but don't expect it to one-shot bosses in the Abyss. The real benefit to this state is when she begins to attack in her burst mode, she restores your team's energy. That means that you can build less energy recharge on your other characters in favor of more offensive stats like attack percent, crit rate, and crit damage. Based on my testing, I was a little underwhelmed with her Q damage, and for comparison, she did less damage in her Q state than Yoimiya did in her E state at the same talent levels. Now keep in mind, Yoimiya was more optimized in the testing realm, whereas the Raiden Shogun definitely is not. However, Yoimiya has a lot of other problems, and Baal's benefits are more than just damage. And on a personal note, her Q state feels much more satisfying than Yoimiya's E state. Given these factors about Baal's kit, it's best to think of her as a support first and DPS second. Her ability to increase other characters' burst damage and recharge their energy will be more valuable than just the damage from her elemental burst alone. The exception to Baal's Q damage, of course, are constellations. At Constellation 2, she ignores 60% of a target's defense, and you can really start to see her damage increase. Now you won't see this as much with targets that don't have a lot of defense in the first place, but for really tanky enemies this will make a huge difference. So she will feel a lot stronger as a DPS at Constellation 2 and above, but she is a little bit better utilized as a support with sub DPS capabilities at Constellation 0. And whenever you're considering pulling for a character, not only do you want to know if the character is good or not, but the next and probably the more important question is, how well do they work in a team? And the truth is, Raiden Shogun does work well in several teams, but because she is Electro, her team comps are a little bit limited at the moment. The first thing to understand is you want characters that have 80 energy cost bursts unless you have her Constellation 1. This is because characters with 80 costs elemental bursts will help her get 60 resolve stacks much faster and more consistently. But if you have her Constellation 1, she will gain resolve stacks even faster. She gains 80% more resolve stacks when the character who uses their burst is Electro, and she gains 20% more resolve stacks when the character is of any other element. So just realize that C1 is a constellation that gives her more options and more flexibility. It doesn't really increase her damage, it just allows her sort of limited scope of teams that she can play very well in at Constellation 0 to be expanded further. She also benefits from the free-to-play weapon, the Catch, which is an amazing weapon for both her and Zhongling. And the 4-piece emblem of the Severed Fate set is tailor-made for her, which is strangely not present in her on her character demo. In the demo, she only has the 2-piece emblem set and 2-piece Thundering Fury. If she had the 4-piece emblem of the Severed Fate set, her Q would do around 70% more damage based on the fact that she has 281% energy recharge. So, should you pull for her? If you're free to play, she is a solid choice, but if you're still building your teams, I would suggest you not pull for her. She will shine with units like Eula, Zhongling, Xingqiu, and Beidou, but if you don't have these characters built, or if you don't have these characters period, then focus on building some other characters first. She definitely does good damage and has a lot of capabilities herself, but without the proper team, she really can't shine. She's not a hyper carry like Ganyu or Zhao, who you can invest a ton of resources into and they will do tons of damage and your entire team supports them. She's the opposite. She does good damage, but her entire role is to facilitate everyone else's damage on the team. So in that sense, if you don't have certain units built out already, she's definitely not a must pull, but she does make certain comps easier and a lot more team comps a lot more fun. Another major advantage of her kit is that her supporting capabilities seem difficult to power creep, and she may in fact get better as more characters are introduced. However, just note that you should never pull for a unit with the expectation that they will be better in the future if you don't think that they are worth it now. So what do you think? Will you be pulling for Baal? Was there something else you think that makes her a must pull or a skip? Let me know below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and come hang out with me at twitch.tv/sharkheart. I really appreciate all the support you've shown me. Thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome, friends.